So I want to talk about this little controversy that had Trump drives Goodyear nuts. Yeah, he drove them nuts. And I want to just tell you what happened if you didn't see this story. And it's not just the great thing that happened in this little story I'm going to tell you, but again, I talk about this so often on my show, and I want to make this point again every chance I get. Republicans tend to get going during campaign season. They identify a particular candidate. We have an election coming up, and then we run candidates, and we put themes and speeches out there. Well, candidate Joe, and he's running on this, and so-and-so is running on this. We run candidates and think of campaign themes, and then we try to persuade the American people that we have great ideas through these campaign themes. On the other hand, Democrats in this country for decades have dedicated themselves to be in 24/7 campaign mode every day, every year, all day long. Every day, all year long. Democrats are in campaign mode. And by that I mean not so much that the party itself is doing things, although they are, but there are leftist activist groups in this country striving to orchestrate, to manipulate the American people, to orchestrate people's views about things, to shape people's views so we, without even realizing it, without even thinking of what's happening as a political presentation that you're hearing. The Democrats work very hard, along with their allies in the mainstream media. I often call them the Democrat media mob. They work very hard to shape America's thinking and viewpoints in subtle ways so that when you get to campaign season, they've already won the argument. It almost doesn't even matter what their candidates say because they have attempted to shape the American view. A great example we talk about, a great link on the show, has to do with what the radical left has done in this country really in the last numerous decades, which has invaded academia, kindergarten through 12th, college, grad school, invaded academia with radical leftists who have been teaching our children for decades that socialism is good, communism is great, capitalism is evil, America's an evil country, America was evil from its founding. These ideas, this is a great example of what the left does over and over and over, psych-op operation. They are trying to psychologically manipulate the American people. So we look around, we educated Americans, actually familiar with world history, recognize how horrible socialism is, the misery communism has caused, but we're hearing young people get out of college and they think because they're educated that they know that socialism is great and communism is even greater and capitalism is evil and freedom is bad and America is an evil country. And we say, how the heck did these people emerge from education thinking this? And the answer is because the left is always and forever on a mission to manipulate the people's thinking in America. So here's a great example of Goodyear. At a Goodyear plant in Kansas, workers at a Goodyear plant in Kansas were treated to a diversity training. So some outside company comes in and they're teaching people all about how to be tolerant and accepting and love diversity, whatever the way they characterize what they were selling, what they were doing. Goodyear chose, I assume attendance at this diversity thing was required. I don't know. It may have been voluntary, but I'm going to guess it was required. Goodyear trying to signal its, virtue signal. It's, oh yeah, we're a great company. We're trying to help. Set up a diversity training brought in by an outside company. Well, an employee at Goodyear managed to snap a picture of the screen. What was shown to them in this diversity training at this Goodyear plant in Kansas. The training for the employees said some kinds of displays of personal opinions, such as message on your hat, message on your shirt, whatever other way you can message. Some of those messages are appropriate and some are not appropriate. And they had a slide labeled zero tolerance. They have zero tolerance for things that are inappropriate. Here's what they let people know were inappropriate things to have on your clothing, to wear to work when you work at Goodyear at this plant in Kansas. Unacceptable section included Blue Lives Matter, referring to police. Blue Lives Matter. All lives matter. Any MAGA attire, MAGA, Make America Great Again, any MAGA attire. Political affiliated slogans or material. These are all zero tolerance, unacceptable in this diversity training for these employees at Goodyear. Acceptable, appropriate messaging that you were allowed to wear, according to this training, included Black Lives Matter, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender pride, and another long list of things, leftist causes. Those are considered appropriate, and Blue Lives Matter and the other ones I just read to you were not appropriate. So I tell you the story to say this became known. This guy, somebody who worked there, took a picture of it, put it up on Twitter and said, hey, this is kind of crazy. At my job at Goodyear, this is a training I'm getting about diversity. So President Trump, which I just love, President Trump weighed in. Instead of just having, as we in America, so many people, we recognize that corporations are pressured by leftists, and so it's just easier for corporate boards to go, okay, leftists are pushing us. Let's tell our employees they can't wear a MAGA symbol. They can't say all lives matter. They can't say blue lives matter. They can't say anything because it's easier for corporate boards and corporate decision makers, corporate management, to surrender to the pressure of the left, because the left is, if nothing else, perpetually relentless. The left never gives up. They campaign, they push their ideas 24/7, and so fortunately, President Trump became aware of this Goodyear thing. So Trump tweeted out, and here's Trump's tweet: "Don't buy Goodyear tires. They announced a ban on MAGA hats. Get better tires for far less." And then he puts in parentheses, "This is what the radical left Democrats do. Two can play the same game, and we have to start playing it now." There was also some, kind of joking around about how, and I don't know, maybe it was serious, about how even the presidential limousine that President Trump rides around in has Goodyear tires. He's saying maybe we'll even trade those out. The point of telling you the story is, it's a little tiny example of fighting back. And it's the kind of fighting back we all need to be doing more and more and more. Goodyear surrendered to the pressure of the left because everyone knows what happens if you don't surrender, if you don't just salute and do what the radical left in this country tells you to do. If you don't do what they do, you're in danger of having a Twitter mob attack you, of having somebody label Goodyear's a racist company, Goodyear refused to denounce racism, and they recognize the left operates as a mob 24/7. So too many corporations go, okay, I'm going to steer clear of the leftist mob. Fine. Okay, we'll let this training come in. We'll say you can't say blue lives matter, but you can say black lives matter. They go along with it because it's easier. It's easier to surrender than to stand up. So I love that President Trump pushed back. He put that tweet out. And then I want to share with you the mealy-mouthed answer that Goodyear came up with. I saw people commenting online that, oh, Goodyear has, they backed off. Okay, never mind. Not exactly. They didn't really back off. What they issued a statement to saying they, first of all, they didn't, they said the slide was not part of any diversity training class. Now, I'm sorry, it wasn't any part of a diversity training class that Goodyear put on, the big, large corporation. But Goodyear, located in Kansas, did hire an outside entity filled with radical leftist mobsters who put this training on and got caught. But Goodyear says in their response, but they didn't deny, they said they really try to steer clear, they want to have a ban on political messaging. They're saying, to be clear on our longstanding corporate policy, Goodyear has zero tolerance for any forms of harassment or discrimination. To enable a workplace environment free of those, we ask that associates refrain from workplace expressions in support of political campaigning for any candidate or political party, as well as similar forms of advocacy that fall outside the scope of racial justice and equity issues. So they just actually confirmed that they do comply with exactly what this diversity training was saying. They are going to call, if you have a Black Lives Matter hat, Black Lives Matter messaging, then you're probably part of racial justice and equity issues. And so that's okay. But if you have All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, where does that fall in this distinction they're trying to make? It was a complete mealy-mouthed failure of honesty on the part of Goodyear. to say, you know what, okay, we're Goodyear. Yeah, we bravely say, we stand with the left. We stand with Black Lives Matter. We don't like MAGA. Go ahead and say that. Take a position and deal with it. Deal with the fact that you're going to have conservatives who don't want to buy your products. But instead of doing that, they try to, walk this kind of tightrope. Well, we don't like political things, but if it deals with racial justice and equity issues, so what they're saying is leftist agitation demanding racial justice, which is the Marxist Black Lives Matter movement. That's okay with them. But someone defending police officers is considered too political and not okay. So the White House has pushed back to say, what exactly and specifically could you please clarify your policy? Are you calling Blue Lives Matter an equity issue? My point in telling you this story, besides I love that someone finally fought back against the left, I wanted to say it's part of what all of us have to be doing in this country more and more and more. President Trump, I know that plenty of people, even people on the right, people who are the, Mitt Romney, senatorial, too dignified and intellectual to get into the battle over culture in America, they probably say, why can't Trump just be quiet? What is Goodyear? What does he care about Goodyear does? But we lose elections because we lose the culture. We lose elections because we lose the culture, because we don't battle it out at the cultural level. So you have the left battling it out, pushing their radical leftist views in every avenue of American life, and then when conservatives or anyone on the right-hand side of the aisle even speaks up, you have some of the naysayers, the ninnies on our side saying, well, that's kind of getting down the weeds. We're above that. We're just going to talk about tax policy. Trump is right. Get in the cultural fight. Fight back when you find a company, a school, an organization is embracing and tolerating leftist viewpoints while shutting down the right. This is happening all over our country, in organizations, in businesses, in communities, in schools, all over our country. We have become accustomed to saluting to the left because it's easier to do, because nobody wants to be attacked by the Twitter mob of the left. But what happens is these kind of little skirmishes, if you don't fight back, the left wins. And so I love that Trump did this. I want to mention something else. This conference I was at over the weekend, I heard a great speech by Brent Bozell, founder of Media Research. And he was stellar, making this point. And I was trying to take notes. He was talking really fast, but I was trying to take notes. The points being that we conservatives, patriots, who actually think the Constitution matters, who actually believe in the foundational liberties of America, we have been very late in the game in the battle in the cultural arena, and then we're surprised to see election outcomes. We have to be fighting it at every stage. You gave an example of in Virginia, I think it was, and it's happening around the country, but you have kindergartners in public schools in Virginia and other places being taught transgender advocacy, being taught that you may really think you're a boy, you're a girl, and your mommy and daddy may have said that. Hey, but you can be anything you want. You can decide for yourself. The doctor just picked something when you were born, but you're in charge of whether you're a boy or a girl. You can decide. You can change your mind. You can change your gender. In kindergarten, the only way to fight back against this radical leftist assault on this country is to fight back at the ground game level day after day after day. Get in the battle you care about. If it's in your public school and your little kindergartner comes home and says, Mommy, the teacher told me I'm really not a boy after all. Get in the fight. Get on the case to the school board. Present your arguments to the school board. Pull your kids out of school. Whatever the issues are, you have to understand the left is able, they believe they're going to be able in this election 2020 to really turn the corner and bring this country toward the radical Marxist revolution that they have been pushing for decades, and they've been succeeding in doing that because they have won battle after battle after battle where you cannot, for example, state you believe in traditional marriage. Say that you think marriage is between a man and a woman. You can't say the most basic common sense things we've all known for thousands of years without being called a hater, a xenophobe, a homophobe, whatever the word they would come up with. And so people get silenced. People get silenced, and then what happens is the leftist wins. If we keep on being silent, the left wins, argument after argument after argument. And then the battle to get back on track, to bring America back, is even harder. I love that Trump spoke up about Goodyear. All of us should be speaking up about the issues that are making America so driving America down the leftist playing field. And we sit in the sidelines hoping maybe. In fact, the Brent Bozell analogy was, whenever, if you picture a football field, every time there's a battle, the left demands, they demand 30 yards. And we, instead of saying, we're not getting into you at all. No, we claim on the conservative side, okay, we'll give you 20 yards. And they go, okay. We capitulate and capitulate and capitulate on issue after issue after issue, and we never stand up. I don't mean anyone. Very few conservatives ever stand up for very basic, simple, fundamental American ideas. We capitulate to the left, and the next battle comes around, and the left drags us down to the next yard line, and we keep capitulating. Okay, one more yard, and then we're really going to start standing up. Okay, one more yard, and then we're really mean, we're going to start standing up. And now, as he's saying, we're at the 10-yard line. The left has, the radical left, the anti-American Marxist left, has moved our country and our culture so far to the left that they're near their finish line. Our job is to start pushing back. As he's saying, no more compromises. No more compromises, no more giving an inch. It never happens. The left never gives an inch to conservative ideas. Time for us to be just as feisty, to be just as committed to defending our ideas.